Before we can start, I'm going to start with the most controversial things I'm going to say first, out of the gate. These are the things that your professors are going to tell you to do. Your professional conferences might tell you that it's best practice, but I'm going to tell you from a design perspective that absolutely these are your superpower kryptonite. These are things that unless you are absolutely required to do so in the specifications of your conference, you should never ever do. Before you deal with the kryptonite, you have to accept that it exists. And this is probably going to be the more challenging part of this presentation, but I hope you'll bear with me and maybe think of these 5 or 6 things that I'm going to ask you to give up forever. Here's poster kryptonite. Oh, before we get started, as you know, when you registered, you had the opportunity to upload a poster. About a dozen of you did. And so when we're talking about examples, they are going to be pulled off of real-world examples of you in the audience. I think I used all but 2, and I have those posted at the end. So if we have time at the end, we can do a little critique of those to go through each of those. So, but we should seriously give an applause to everyone who's here that has their poster. Some of the comments, I'm going to pull out positive aspects that I see. Some of the comments are things that I think shouldn't be done. However, keeping in mind that everyone does these, but we're not going to do them anymore because we're going to stand out and we're going to be better than the crowd. So, first poster kryptonite is an abstract. How many of you put an abstract on your poster typically? There are some professional societies that require you to put an abstract on. They require you to put an abstract on, and they require you to put it in the top left-hand corner. I know that APA is one of those. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense because your poster is an abstract. So really, when you're making an abstract on your poster, you're making an abstract of an abstract. It's like Panera Bread or irregardless, or things that are redundant in what you're trying to do. Instead, here's an example. We had a few of these, but here's an abstract that exists on here. And it's a summary of what's on the poster. But your poster should be a 2 to 3 minute snapshot of what your research is. And if you are doing a 1 minute snapshot of a 3 minute poster, then it's not an effective use of your time and your real estate. So whenever possible, get rid of the abstract and make sure that your poster is a representation of your abstract. Second one, background images. There are, in our group of submissions, I didn't see any huge distracting background images, which is the reason that I hate it so much. Lots of the time you'll put a highly visually distracting image in your background, and I think the reason most people do that is because they figure, I can overlay everything on top of the poster and I'm not using up any of my real estate on actually putting an image in. That's a bad way to think about how we want to make use of the images that we use in our posters. Here is a background image that was submitted by Michelle Pyle, I think. Is she here? This is a great poster. This is a great image, but it's your background image. And I don't think that it's distracting from your poster because you can barely see it here, but what I think it is a missed opportunity. Because when I look at the overall visual effect of what's on here, it looks like an engineering poster to me, but I can't tell if it's engineering for a car or for a building or for whatever else it is. If you have a space image as part of your poster, then someone, especially if you are in a poster session where there are a variety of disciplines, then they can make a cognitive and an emotional connection with your poster as a space poster, or upper atmosphere, not space. Upper atmosphere is what you're doing, right? And that helps prime them for the type of content that they're going to be receiving overall, and it takes 0 time for them to do that. So that's one recommendation, aside from distraction, of why you might not want to put a really great looking image as your background. Okay, next kryptonite is flanking logos. Everyone does flanking logos. By flanking logos, I mean this, and this, and this. Everyone does it. I think more than half of the posters we received had flanking logos. One on the top all the way over here, and one on the top all the way over here. Now, I did see that there are some societies that require you to put your institution affiliations up top, and often on either side of what you're presenting. From a design perspective, this is a bad idea. First of all, what you're trying to communicate is your research and yourself. Your institution is likely going to be somewhat secondary. But simply from a design perspective, your poster is not this wide, but it is this wide. And if you have 3 people looking at your poster at the same time, one person here, one person here, one person here, they are not going to see both of those institutions when they are on opposite sides of the poster. So from a conceptual standpoint, it's harder to make your point when your like items are not grouped together. So that's one reason that it doesn't make sense. What we do when we provide templates for our undergraduates who are presenting at Research on Capitol Hill, we provide them with these PowerPoints that they can plug in information into, because we want them all to look branded and similar. And we give a lot of space, and we put our institution down here. And you can't see it, and I'm sorry because the table's in the way. But that's where we put the institution. It's still really visible in the whole scheme of the poster. It will take you less than a second if I say find the institutional logo to find the institutional logo. But it gives a chance for your title and your contact information to be the star of your poster. One thing that I also see is a lot of institutional logos in the JPEG format with a white background on some other colored background. And what you would prefer is to have something like this, where you just see the logo and not the bounding box of the logo. So if you go here, usu.edu/PRM, that's the public relations and marketing site for the university. They have a whole slew of logos and images and word marks that you can download in PNG format or in EPS format if you need a higher res version, that you can put on your poster. And you can slap it anywhere, and you're not going to have the white box around it, which is something that you'd like to avoid. So do go there and download your institutional logos from there. They've got all different orientations, so you can find the logo that fits your space that you have. But it's something that will be really useful, and it's one thing that can quickly and easily make your poster look so much better than that. I made sure to include on that one a white background on those logos. Next, Kryptonite is a mailing address. Lots of people put their city, state, and zip code on the poster, and here's an example of one right here. There's nothing patently wrong with it, but here's the thing that I know does not happen at a poster session. You're having an engaging conversation with someone who's coming to visit your poster, and then they think, this is a great poster. I am going to write this person a letter. And then they fish out a piece of paper and a pen and write down your postal information so they can send it out for you. Instead, what they're going to do is they're going to look for your email address. And then they will say, this was a great collaboration. I'm going to email you to be able to continue this conversation further. If you need your mailing address or whatever else on there, you are grown-ups now. It is time to get a pack of business cards. They are cheap. You can get some from Vistaprint. They typically have specials that run quite frequently where you can get a pack of business cards for free. But then when you're networking at your conference, rather than having to hope that they write down your contact information and then contact you again, you give them your business card and you say, hey, if you thought this was interesting, we can talk more about how we can work together in the future. Here's all of my information. And then you don't have to waste precious real estate on something that's likely not going to be used. And every inch of your poster is so important to not clutter it up with anything else. Drop shadows and bevels. I have to say, from our submissions that we received, I saw very little of this, which is something that I've seen a lot in the past. Drop shadows and bevels, they require you to use more space for your graphical elements than what you would want to do. And you usually don't allot that space, so things look crowded. Also for text, it makes it less readable. So here's an example. You can actually, on this, you can barely see the drop shadow, but the title has a subtle drop shadow on it. So you can see I've enlarged it right here, and now you can see the drop shadow. And you may think, oh, what's the big deal? It's not too much, but let me toggle between a drop shadow and no drop shadow and see which one's more readable. All of a sudden, it looks like you're just making your title a little bit blurry, and there's not really a reason for it. The only time that a drop shadow really makes sense is if you're putting white text on top of a photo, which there's not many instances when it's appropriate to do that, and then you add a black shadow under that. So if you have variegating values within your photo, that it will show up and it won't bleed away into the whiteness no matter what. Other than that, I would stay away from using any type of bevels, glows, or drop shadows on your posters. That is our Kryptonite. So that's what you can do to optimize your poster. That's just some best practices that are going to make you pop.